If you want to be dangerously smart, start by learning to see. Not to dream, not to wish, just to see. Machiavelli's first move is X-ray vision. Strip away how things should be and look at how they actually move. Before you make a speech, make a map. Who wants what? Who can stop you? Where does the money flow? Where does attention flow? Where does fear flow? The world is not a morality play, it's a system of forces. To win inside that system, you measure forces. Begin with 2 columns. On the left, write the beautiful story you've been told. If I do good work, I'll be promoted. If I'm honest, people will support me. If I explain it clearly, they'll understand. On the right, write what you can verify. Who signs the promotion form? What metric got the last person promoted? Who actually attends the meeting where that decision is made? Which person in that room has the quiet power to veto? When ideals and incentives collide, incentives win. Quietly, repeatedly, without apology. You don't have to like that. You just have to notice it. Reality has layers. First, constraints. Time, money, rules, and customs. If there's no budget line for your idea doesn't exist. If the deadline is tomorrow, the perfect plan is a fantasy. Second, human patterns. People protect status, reduce risk, and follow momentum. Give them a path that keeps their status safe, shrinks their risk, and feels like a moving train, and they'll step on. Third, institutions. Every group has formal rules, written, and informal rules, whispered. The written rule says, open door policy. The whispered rule says, book her chief of staff and you'll get the meeting. Machiavelli's lens is simple. The informal rule usually beats the formal one. Here's a quick diagnostic you can run on any situation. Ask, what is scarce? What is rationed? Who rations it? Promotion slots, camera time, legal approval, executive attention. Scarcity creates gatekeepers, and gatekeepers create leverage. Next ask, who can punish? Not who can complain. Who can actually remove resources, revoke access, stall a process. Finally ask, what is the default? Default settings are gravitational wells. Whoever sets defaults shapes 80% of outcomes without raising their voice. The person who writes the agenda often has more power than the person who speaks under it. A concrete example. You're pitching a new product line. The loudest supporters are in marketing, but the budget sits in ops, and ops trusts the finance partner, and the finance partner listens to the head of risk. The head of risk? Quiet, rarely in the big meeting, but their memo decides whether the CFO nods or frowns. Measure power, not volume. If you want a yes, you don't just rehearse the keynote. You ghostwrite the risk memo. Cost caps, downside limits, pilot scope, exit triggers. You're not flattering opinions. You're feeding the one decision maker whose red pen can kill the dream. Opinions are weather. Power is climate. It's pleasant to bathe in approval, likes, retweets, praises in the hallway. But if none of those people allocate budget, hire staff, sign contracts, or set policy, their approval is sugar water. Machiavelli would tell you to inventory decision rights. Make 3 lists. Who can say yes, who can say no, and who moves those people. The third list is where most of the action hides. Chiefs of staff, assistants, legal reviewers, senior analysts, committee secretaries. Kingmakers without crowns. If you can't draw arrows from your influence efforts to these specific hands, you're campaigning in empty air. Here's a field method you can use this week. Spend 1 hour on a power map. Center the outcome you want. Around it, place every stakeholder in concentric rings. Inner ring, direct approvers and veto players. Middle ring, gatekeepers who control calendars, documents, or data. Outer ring, influencers who shape perceptions, trusted veterans, external advisors, respected contrarians. Now assign each node 3 numbers. 1. Formal authority from 0 to 5. 2. Informal influence from 0 to 5, 0 to 5. 3. Stake how much they gain or lose from 0 to 5. People with low authority but high influence and high stake are your leverage points. They'll move for you if you de-risk their move. Notice the difference between reputation and reliability. Reputation is what people say you are. Reliability is what systems can count on you to do. Power accrues to reliability. If you consistently deliver on deadlines, keep confidences, and come with prepared alternatives, the system routes work, and therefore leverage, through you. That's not virtue signaling, that's dependable throughput. Machiavelli admired competence because competence compounds. More throughput, more centrality, more information, better timing, cleaner wins. Another exercise, trade-off tracing. Every decision that looks moral or political is hiding a budget, a risk threshold, or a status cost. Ask, what trade-off is this person avoiding? Maybe saying yes to you means admitting their previous plan was wrong. Maybe approving your project means they'll need to ask their team for a weekend push and burn social capital. If you offset that hidden trade-off by giving them a graceful narrative, by offering resources that cover the weekend, by sharing credit, you convert a no into a neutral, and a neutral into a yes. Beware of mirages, loud crises, dramatic emails, theatrically urgent requests. Many are decoys created by people who don't own the levers. Don't measure urgency, measure consequence. If this problem is ignored for a week, who loses something real? If the answer is no one with a key, keep your focus on the pipeline that leads to actual signatures. This is not cynicism, it's triage. The dangerous mind refuses to be kidnapped by noise. Let's step into the room with a Renaissance prince, just for a moment. The nobles flatter, the envoys posture, the crowds shout. He doesn't ask, who is right? He asks, who can deliver soldiers? Who can collect taxes on time? Who can shut the gates? Whose betrayal would actually flip the board? Translate that to your world. Who can pull your product from the shelf? Who can trigger a compliance review? Who can bump you to the top of the backlog or bury you in it? Those are the people you map, court, protect, or neutralize. Information itself is a lever. If you're the first to see the trend, you arrive before the stampede and set the terms. Build private dashboards, leading indicators, not vanity metrics. In a company, this might be early churn signals, procurement cycle times, hiring pipeline velocity. In a creative career, it might be watch time segments, save/share ratios, sponsor response lag. You're not hoarding data, you're shaping reality by acting sooner than others can even perceive the slope. Coalitions beat charisma. Two medium players aligned around a concrete plan can outperform one glorious speaker with no votes. When you recruit, don't chase agreement, chase alignment. Agreement is, I like it. Alignment is, I'll spend my chips on it. Ask for specific commitments. Will you co-sign the brief? Will you lend your analyst for 10 hours? Will you present the risk plan as your own? Each commitment converts influence into horsepower. Machiavelli would tell you, promises are a currency with terrible inflation. Collect payments, not pledges. Calibrate your ethics like a pilot calibrates instruments. Consciously, not casually. You don't have to be ruthless to be realistic. You do have to separate means from ends and first-order effects from second-order consequences. A kind lie that destroys trust is stupid. A blunt truth that humiliates an ally is also stupid. Choose moves that keep long-run cooperation possible with the people you will need again. This is the line between being feared and being hated. Fear respects boundaries. Hatred seeks revenge. You can be firm without making enemies you don't need. Study the terrain before you move. Terrain is process, procurement steps, committee calendars, legal review gates, PR windows, platform algorithms. If the calendar says the budget locks in Q3, your grand pitch in Q4 is theatre. If the algorithm is rewarding session time, not clicks, your headline wins aren't leverage. Power flows along the channels that already exist. If there isn't a channel for your idea, build a pilot channel small enough to be ignored and successful enough to be adopted. Diversify your levers. Don't stake everything on one boss, one platform, one client, one donor, one sponsor. Monopsony is dependency, and dependency is slow death. Build parallel lines, a second alliance, a second revenue stream, a second way to reach your audience. You're not being paranoid, you're being sovereign. The person with options negotiates softly and still gets their way. When in doubt, count. Count the votes, the dollars, the hours, the approvals required. the weeks left, the moments of contact you can realistically achieve. Count the distribution nodes that must say yes before a message spreads. Count the number of people who must change behavior for your plan to work. If your count is higher than your influence budget, shrink the plan or grow the influence. Numbers don't care about your narrative, that's why they save you. If you need a single practical ritual, do this before any important move. Write one page called How This Really Works. Bullet the decision path from first conversation to final signature. Name the humans at each step. Note what each human fears, wants, and must show their own boss. Then write what you can offer each one that lowers their fear and raises their win. If a step on your page is, and then magic happens, you aren't ready. If every step is anchored to a person and a date, you are already ahead of most of your competition. Stop treating fairness as a forecast and start treating it as a design problem. Systems don't spontaneously correct in your favor. They are corrected by people with leverage who see clearly and act precisely. The clear seeing is the part most people skip. Don't skip it. Draw the map, test your assumptions in small, cheap ways, and adjust. When your vision of reality gets sharper than everyone else's, decisions get simpler, timing gets cleaner, and resistance gets weaker. Not because the world became nicer, but because you finally learned where the handles are. Appear virtuous. Be effective. That's the dangerous balance. Most people pick one. They either chase spotless appearances and surrender results, or they chase results and let their reputation become a wreck. Machiavelli's move is to split the layers. You cultivate a stable, legible surface, what people can quickly read about you, and then you build a flexible, decisive core that can do what reality requires. The surface protects the core feeds the surface with real wins. When people meet you, they should instantly understand your virtue signature, what you seem to care about, what rhythms you keep, what lines you don't cross. When people work with you, they should learn that you deliver even when the path gets uncomfortable. Start by choosing your 3 visible virtues, no more. Too many and you look theatrical. Too few and you look hollow. Pick ones that are useful shields. Fairness, you hear every side. Stewardship, you protect long-term value. And courage, you make hard calls. Then build routines that prove them repeatedly. Fairness isn't a bumper sticker. It's a practice like circulating pre-reads so no one is ambushed in a meeting, or giving critics the first question after a presentation. Stewardship looks like budget guardrails, clean handoffs, and post-mortems that actually change process. Courage shows up as time-stamped decisions with your name on them when stakes are high. These rituals are not fluff. They are non-verbal contracts. This is what you can expect from me. Every time you perform them, you deposit into a reputation bank you can draw from when you must do the hard thing. Your public acts should be legible, low drama, and consistent. Do the helpful thing loudly and the painful thing quietly. If you need to cut a feature, you don't parade it. You publish a crisp, why we prioritized X over Y memo that appeals to your chosen virtues. Stewardship, we're protecting uptime for 20,000 users. Fairness, we considered 3 proposals and scored them against shared criteria. If you must enforce a boundary, make it procedural, not personal. We're enforcing the standard we all agreed on, rather than, I'm disappointed in you. Procedure is a shield. People resent humiliation. They accept rules. When your effectiveness requires acting against an ideal, tie the move to a higher, older principle you've already made visible. We value transparency meets, we can't share the legal details yet, becomes, to protect the company's long-term ability to be transparent, here's what I can share now, and the date I'll share more. Don't lie when framing will do. Don't overshare when silence will do. The performance is not deception, it's emphasis. You're choosing which true part of the story to put under the spotlight so cooperation remains possible. Anticipate hypocrisy traps. If your signature virtue is fairness, your enemies will try to paint you as selective. So preempt. Publish selection criteria before you decide, not after. If your signature virtue is stewardship, they'll try to cast you as stingy. Preempt with a spend-to-save record, times you invested heavily when the long-term case was strong. If your signature virtue is courage, they'll bait you into loud gestures that don't move outcomes. Refuse theatrics, pick consequential battles, and explain why they matter in boring, measurable terms. The boring story is your armor. Reputation compounds through consistency across contexts. Use a virtue palette, the same phrases, symbols, and behaviors everywhere your name appears. In person, in email, on camera, in crisis. People remember patterns, not paragraphs. If your brand is fairness, your language might always include Steelman opposing views, timebox each speaker, rotate speaking order, publish decision log. If your brand is stewardship, capacity buffer, risk envelope, maintenance window, rollback plan. A steady palette lets others defend you when you're not in the room. Say what you want about her, but she always gives the other side the mic. That sentence is gold. You earn it by repetition. Now, control the frame or lose the game. Framing is not about clever slogans. It's about defining the problem, the stakes, and the success criteria before anyone else does. Whoever names the problem sets the range of acceptable answers. Before the big meeting, get your pre-read in people's hands with 3 moves. Define the baseline, define the comparison, define the clock. Baseline. Here's where we really are. Last quarter's numbers, failure rates, attrition. Comparison. Compared to what? Option A costs less upfront but locks us in. Option B costs more but keeps exit ramps open. Clock. What happens if we wait 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 quarters? Most debates are really confused comparisons and mismatched clocks. Fix those and you've already won half the decision. Use the frame triangle, problem arrow, cause arrow criterion. Problem, name a concrete, non-moral failing people can test. Deploys take 2 hours longer on Fridays. Cause, point to a system, not a villain. Handoffs cross 3 teams with no owner. Criterion, set a success test that kills vague objections. We cut average Friday deploy time under 30 minutes for 4 weeks straight. This structure drains heat from drama and channels it into action. If someone tries to reframe with moral heat, this is about commitment. Plug it back into the triangle. Commitment to what? To hitting the 30-minute criterion? Great, let's measure that together. Agenda authorship is frame control in its purest form. Write the agenda, send it early, lock time boxes, and start with your diagnostics, not open-ended thoughts, chaos. Give the hardest item the most time. Put decision items before discussion items, not after. Add a single, neutral sentence under each agenda line to state the question as you want it asked. Decision. Choose pilot scope that reduces downside risk to less than $50,000 and gives meaningful signal on churn drivers. If someone proposes a detour, you have the agenda to bring the room back. The piece of paper is your ally. It's hard for people to fight words they've already implicitly accepted by showing up. Pre-frame the audience before opponents do. Send one-on-one briefs to key stakeholders with tailored emphasis on their incentives. To finance, the downside caps and scenario analysis. To legal, the compliance controls and audit trail. To brand, the narrative and worst-case messaging. To the operator who can quietly block you, the staffing plan and rollback. The same plan, 4 framings. You're not telling 4 truths. You're shining the light on the part each person must defend to say yes. When an opposing frame lands, don't counterpunch blindly. Disarm, then redirect. First, isolate the claim to a testable dimension. If your concern is cost, is there a price threshold at which you'd support the pilot? Second, agree to the value behind their frame whenever possible. We share the goal of protecting runway. Third, offer a reframed benchmark. Let's compare protect runway by spending $0 and learning nothing versus protect runway by spending $40,000 to kill a doomed path in Q1 instead of Q3. Which protects runway more? Good reframing converts enemies into conditional allies. If X, then I'm with you. Control symbols. People think in pictures and metaphors. Give them yours. If the project is about speed, talk trains and timetables. If it's about safety, talk seatbelts and airbags. Keep the metaphor consistent across slides, scripts, and status updates. Visual continuity is cognitive glue. And be careful with your opponent's metaphor. If you accept, "This is reckless," you're already on their terrain. Swap it. This is a safety test at slow speed on an empty track. Same facts, new picture. Frame the default in your favor. The default wins by inertia. Propose solutions where do nothing looks riskier than do something small. Use pilots with clear exit ramps, pre-approved budgets, and concrete stop conditions. We proceed unless 2 of 3 metrics miss by greater than 20%. This flips the burden of proof. Now opponents must justify halting progress, not you justifying each step. If stopping means they own a decision to protect failure, they'll hesitate. You've just made movement the easiest choice. Narrative sequencing matters. Don't open with your bold future. Open with the real pain now. People sign onto journeys to escape pain more readily than to chase abstractions. Describe the current friction in sensory detail. The queue that keeps people late on Fridays, the angry customer email that recurs every month, the engineer who is quietly looking for a new job because of tool misery. Then, only then, show how your plan dissolves that pain. If you start with the castle in the clouds, skeptics will swat it. If you start with the pebble in their shoe, they'll lean in. Use testimony instead of argument whenever possible. A 2-sentence endorsement from a trusted operator beats 5 slides from you. We ran the pilot for 2 weeks. On-call pages dropped by 30%. I'd like this rolled out, tee these up intentionally. Quietly give early adopters the mic. Let them own the frame that this was their win. Shared credit expands the coalition and reduces resistance. Remember, in politics, the best shepherds look like sheep. Manage cadence. Frames fade. If you don't refresh them, opponents will fill the vacuum. Set a rhythm. Brief to meeting to decision, to recap to early win, to highlight to next brief. Each touch repeats your frame triangle in different clothes. Keep artifacts short and skimmable. Busy people remember the skeleton, not the muscle. You are feeding the skeleton. In crises, assume the frame will be set in the first hour by whoever speaks first. So pre-draft your crisis frames now. 3 templates cover most situations. Containment, what is affected and crucially what isn't. Cause under investigation, the serious, bounded path to truth. And commitment, what you'll change and by when. Pair each with your virtues. Fairness, we'll disclose our findings to all stakeholders at the same time. Stewardship, we've isolated the impact. Here are the safeguards. Courage, I authorize the rollback at 2:17. Responsibility is mine. Crisp, early, steady beats, perfect and late every time. Beware of overframing. If your rhetoric drifts too far from observable reality, you trigger antibodies. People sense perfume over rot. Match your language to the evidence you can produce quickly. Promise small, deliver fast, then enlarge. A frame is a lens, not a hallucination. It helps people see and act. The moment it becomes a substitute for action, you're just decorating defeat. Finally, remember that frame control is a service. You're not hypnotizing people. You're reducing noise so the group can move. You're giving them a simple, accurate story structure that focuses attention on the levers that matter. When you do it well, people feel relieved, not manipulated. They get to keep their dignity and make a good decision. That is the Machiavellian sweet spot. Appear virtuous because your surface is steady and legible. Be effective because your core is adaptive and decisive. The mask is not a lie. It's a sign that tells the world what kind of driver is at the wheel. Power that lasts doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being taken seriously. Respect is a function of predictability. People must know that your boundaries are real, your word is binding, and your consequences arrive without theatrics. Love can be fickle, built on mood and convenience. Fear, properly understood, is not terror. It's a cool knowledge that crossing certain lines has costs. Machiavelli's warning is simple. If you can't secure both love and fear, prioritize fear, but never spill into hatred. Hatred is personal, sticky, and mobilizes revenge. Fear is impersonal, procedural, and mobilizes compliance. The dangerous mind designs systems that enforce standards without humiliating people. Start by defining your red lines in boring, specific language. What will you always act on? Missed deadlines without notice, dishonesty, scope creep that jeopardizes delivery, back-channel sabotage. Write each line as a behavioral rule with a corresponding, pre-declared consequence. If a blocker isn't surfaced 24 hours before the deadline, we reassign the work and remove the person from the next high-stakes project. Notice the structure: clear trigger, automatic outcome. The less you improvise, the less your enforcement feels like a mood swing. People don't fear you, they respect the system you operate. Enforce privately, praise publicly. Humiliation breeds hatred. When someone crosses a line, action first, lecture later. I'm pulling this task now and giving it to Sam. We'll debrief one-on-one at 4 p.m. Short, neutral, done. In the debrief, anchor to facts and agreements, not character. We agreed to flag blockers by Tuesday noon. We didn't. Here's the impact. Here's how we prevent a repeat. If a pattern persists, escalate consequence per your ladder, reduced scope, delayed promotion, removal from the initiative. Calm escalation communicates that the rules are real. Rage communicates that you're unstable. Publish your ladder of consequences before you need it. A simple 3-step. Correction arrow constraint, arrow cutoff. Correction, feedback, tools, clarity. Constraint, reduce scope, add check-ins, pair with a mentor. Cutoff, reassign, exit or exclude from the decision loop. Pair each rung with timeframes and who decides. The existence of a ladder lowers conflict because people can see the path and choose differently. They also see that you're not out to get anyone. You're stewarding the mission. Design rituals that make your firmness visible and fair. Begin meetings on time, end on time, and lock decisions in a public log. Rotate speaking order so the same voices don't dominate. Require written positions for major decisions to slow down manipulators who rely on verbal speed. Demand pre-mortems. How could this fail? And post-mortems with action items. These are not bureaucratic flourishes. They're signals that you run a system where effort must meet standard. Use the principle of least necessary force. Enforce the smallest consequence that will reliably change behavior. Overkill makes enemies. Underkill breeds contempt. Think of it like setting a thermostat. If someone misses an expectation, don't nuke their status. Turn the dial, add a check-in, shorten their leash on decision rights, or time-box their experiments. Reserve public, high-cost penalties for integrity violations or sabotage. You want people to fear crossing the real lines, not fear taking initiative. When you must be sharp, be specific. Vague firmness looks like posturing. Specific firmness looks like leadership. We are not changing scope after Wednesday 5 p.m. without cutting an equal amount elsewhere. We will ship the reduced feature set this sprint. The rest goes to a dated backlog item with named owner. This channel is for decisions. Debate belongs in the doc comment thread. Specifics give teeth to your stance and relieve the team from guessing what will upset you. Preempt the slide into hatred by protecting dignity and property. People hate the leader who makes them feel small or steals their wins. Share credit generously and document contributions so no one feels erased. When you reverse someone's plan, preserve a piece of their work inside the new path. We're adopting your risk matrix wholesale in the alternative plan. When you must fire or reassign, keep the narrative neutral and the severance/lifeline humane. The way you treat the departing is a message to the staying about whether to quietly plot against you or keep rowing. Beware of cheap fear, the performative scold, the late-night wall of messages, the sarcastic public jab. It buys a moment of compliance and a long tail of resistance. Replace it with cold fear, a reputation for quiet enforcement on schedule, backed by receipts. People should be able to predict your response from your playbook. Predictability is what makes your fear feel like gravity, not lightning. Scripts help in the heat of conflict. 3 that work. Boundary script. I'm saying no to X because it violates Y, the rule we agreed. The alternative available now is Z. If we need to revisit Y, let's put that on next week's agenda with data. Veto script. I appreciate the effort. I'm vetoing this for reason A and B. Here's the path to a yes. Show me C by Friday and D by next sprint. Consequence script. We missed the standard twice. Per our ladder, I'm reducing your scope for 2 cycles. Let's set a plan to earn back autonomy. All of this becomes easier if you reduce single points of failure on your side and theirs. Which brings us to the second lesson. Build options before you need them. Leverage is an options game. The person with alternatives negotiates with a light touch and still gets their way. The person with one supplier, one sponsor, one platform, one income stream, one big client, bargains from desperation. Optionality is not indecision, it's preloaded escape ramps. Run an option audit across your life and projects. For each mission-critical area, list your current dependency and at least 2 credible alternatives. People. Who else can make this decision? Review this code, present to this client, run this campaign. Vendors. What second supplier could deliver 70% of the value at 120% of the cost if needed? Is that premium worth the insurance? Channels. If your primary platform throttles reach, what email list, community, or partnership keeps you connected to your audience? Cash. How many months of burn can you absorb without revenue? What costs can you flex within a week? Data. If a tool dies, where is your export? Have you tested the restore? Skills. What adjacent skill would cut a critical dependency by 30% if you had it at competent level? Treat each alternative like a real option. It has an acquisition cost, time, money, attention, a maintenance cost, a strike price when you'd exercise it, and an expected value under stress. Many people balk at paying the wasteful premium of a second supplier or the time to cross-train a teammate. Machiavelli would laugh. The premium is tiny compared to the ransom a monopoly will demand when you're trapped. Build pilot-scale options. You don't need fully parallel systems, just credible prototypes that can scale under pressure. Keep a warm relationship with an alternative vendor by running 1 small order per quarter. Maintain an active second recruiting channel by doing a quarterly coffee with its best candidates. Keep an email list alive with a monthly note even if your main growth is on social. These small drips keep veins open so you can transfuse fast when the heart stops on the primary line. Design modular plans so components can be swapped without collapsing the whole. Break projects into units with clear interfaces, documentation, API contracts, SOPs, decision checklists. Modularity is optionality in architecture. When a module fails, a team quits, a tool sunsets, you replace the module, not rebuild the cathedral. Practice dual-pathing high-risk bets. A bold plan A and a conservative plan B running in parallel for a short window to generate signal. Example: test a new pricing model on 10% of traffic while keeping 90% on the old plan. Evaluate conversion and churn after 2 weeks. Or pitch 2 different narratives to 2 safe audiences and measure which pulls more questions toward purchase. Dual pathing trades a small amount of duplication for a large reduction in existential risk. Personal leverage is options too. Build reputation capital in more than 1 circle so your opportunities don't evaporate if one tribe turns cold. Develop 2 saleable skills that play well together, e.g., storytelling plus analytics, ops plus negotiation, design plus research. Keep a small savings career option fund that buys you the freedom to reject toxic contracts. Don't wait until you need to leave to cultivate destinations. In negotiation, options are your quiet power. The side with a strong BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, uses fewer words and gets better terms. That means doing homework before you enter the room, competing offers, reservation price, walkaway point, concession sequence. Telegraphed scarcity makes the other party lazy. Telegraphed options make them generous. You don't have to boast. Subtle signals work. We're comparing delivery windows. If you can hit 21 days, we can sign this week. The existence of a "we can sign elsewhere" is implied. Option building also lives in time. Early is an option. If you start 3 weeks ahead, You create space for failure, iteration, and contingency. Last-minute work collapses your option set and forces stupid trades. A calendar full of buffers is not laziness, it's a portfolio of temporal options you can cash in when something breaks. Build social options by diversifying trust. Don't pour all mentoring, advice, or sponsorship needs into one senior person. Triangulate. One inside your team for day-to-day politics, one 2 levels up for perspective, one outside the org for sanity. Each relationship reduces overexposure to the moods and constraints of any single human. Document options with triggers so you don't hesitate when it's time to exercise. If vendor defect rate exceeds 3% for 2 weeks, shift 40% volume to vendor B. If churn on the test cohort is less than +1% after 30 days, roll out new pricing to 50%. If sponsor payment is greater than 30 days late twice, pause deliverables and escalate per contract. Decisions are easier when you pre-decide the threshold. Maintain a go bag for key processes. A compressed folder with the minimum viable materials to pivot quickly. Templated emails, legal clauses, pitch decks, SOPs, onboarding checklists, status page copy. In crisis, speed is a weapon. Your go bag turns panic into action. Optionality doesn't mean hedging forever. You still pick a path and concentrate resources. The point is to keep the ability to redirect when reality contradicts your plan. Machiavelli called it virtù, adaptive strength meeting fortune's floods. Build your levees in dry weather, systems of consequence that make you respected rather than resented, and portfolios of options that make your yes powerful and your no believable. When others scramble for favors, you'll negotiate from stillness. When others beg for mercy, you'll calmly change suppliers, shift channels, rotate talent, and keep moving. People won't love you for it. They'll do something better for your mission. They'll align because they know your lines are real and your roads are many. Decisive action is not about speed for its own sake. It's about compressing the window in which opponents can organize. You move once, cleanly, and then you make the new reality boring. Most leaders do the opposite. They hesitate, test everyone's patience, then drag the chaos out for weeks. The delay gives every critic time to build coalitions, leak, and weaponize uncertainty. Machiavelli's method is a 2-phase cadence: shock, then soothe. First, define the irreducible move, not 12 moves. 1. What is the smallest decisive change that meaningfully alters the game? The hire who shifts standards, the reorg that collapses 3 committees into 1 accountable owner. The product cut that frees 40% of capacity. If your decisive action needs 5 approvals and 6 dependencies, it isn't decisive yet. Refactor it until 1 signature, 1 switch, 1 team can execute. Before you act, set 3 anchors: the reason, the rule, the result. Reason: 1 sentence that names the present pain in numbers. 2 failed launches in 90 days. On-call pages up 38%. Rule: the principle that justifies the change. We protect reliability over novelty. Result: the measurable target that says the move worked. Page volume back under baseline for 4 consecutive weeks. These anchors are not rhetoric. They are the scaffolding that holds the building while you rip out a wall. Prepare the terrain so the cut happens once. That means pre-baking logistics, access, contracts, communications, runbooks, rollback. Draft the email you hope never to send. Stage the permissions you'll need at 6 a.m. Line up HR, legal, finance, ops. Create a calendar block named stabilization for the next 2 weeks because the work begins after the cut, not before. When the moment comes, you push 1 button and the dominoes fall in a sequence you already rehearsed. How you deliver the blow matters. Public framing, private impact. You announce succinctly, without apology theatre, and reference the anchors. You deliver the consequences directly to those affected with dignity and specifics. The new teams, the new scopes, the new owners, the severance where applicable. You answer questions that matter. What changes today? What happens to my work? How will we measure stability? You don't debate the decision on stage. You've already made it. Debate before, not during. Details after, not instead. Now, the soothing. After decisive action, people look for two things: boundaries and rhythm. You give both. Boundaries, a published FAQ with crisp decisions, no new features for 21 days, hiring pause except on critical path, one weekly status, not 5 channels of chatter. Rhythm, a predictable cadence of check-ins with the same structure every time, metrics, blockers, next steps, no surprise agenda shifts. Predictability is anesthesia. It numbs the pain of change. Install a quiet corridor so teams can work without constant re-evaluation. Lock the plan for 2 weeks. Changes must meet a high bar and go through a single gatekeeper. People tolerate discomfort if it isn't shape-shifting daily. Every new exception reopens the wound and invites bargaining. The corridor doesn't kill feedback. It batches it into a weekly window where you adjust deliberately, not reactively. Make the painful thing small and fast. Make the stabilizing thing visible and steady. If you cut scope, ship a reduced release quickly and celebrate that it held. If you reorg, publish the new decision map. Who signs what, where documents live, what the escalation path is. Ritualize normalcy. Same stand-up time, same status format, same demo day. The brain craves cues that the ground is solid. Choose your early wins by design, not luck. Pick proofs that calm the specific fear you created. If people fear we won't ship at all now, ship something boring that matters. Reliability up, ticket queue down, customer retention flat to up. If people fear our best folks will leave, announce that you closed 2 key hires or retained a flight risk. One visible green light at the nerve center disarms a dozen rumors. Anticipate sabotage without dramatizing it. Some will test your firmness. Predefine your response. First offense gets a corrective 1-to-1 and written expectation. Second offense triggers scope reduction. Third triggers removal from the stream. Do this quietly and by the book. The lesson spreads faster than an angry speech. Don't confuse stabilization with stagnation. Stabilization is a platform for iteration. As soon as the basics hold, service levels, handoffs, velocity, you reopen the throttle in small increments. You keep the rule. Once per week, make one change to accelerate, measure for 5 days, then decide whether to keep it. This one change rule prevents overload and signals that forward motion has resumed with control. Write the 2 memos that control the narrative, what we ended and what begins now. The first names the practices, not the people that are over. No more multi-owner projects without single directly responsible individual. The second names the behaviors that get rewarded next. Fast escalation, short docs before long decks, 1-page risk plans with clear exit triggers. People copy what gets praised and funded. Your memos tell them where to aim. On to fortune, luck is the flood, virtu is the levee. You don't command the river, you shape the bank so when it swells it feeds your mill instead of drowning your house. Preparation isn't a binder on a shelf. It's a set of muscles you use weekly, so when pressure hits, you're moving while others are remembering how. Build a short feedback loop culture. Decisions age like milk. You want to see spoilage fast. Standardize a loop that fits on one line. Act arrow, measure arrow, compare to threshold arrow adjust. Every initiative has a truth window, the shortest time in which reality can tell you if you're off. For operational changes, it might be days. For pricing, weeks. For hiring, months. Declare the truth window up front and schedule the read. Set kill criteria before you're attached. Humans rationalize sunk costs. Write the stop-if numbers into the plan, not your diary. Kill the experiment if churn rises greater than 1.5 percentage points for 14 days in the pilot cohort. Abandon this channel if CAC exceeds LTV/3 for 2 consecutive cohorts. When the threshold hits, you don't agonize, you execute the pre-committed move. Your team learns that data wins over ego. Practice red teaming lightly and often. Once a week, assign a skeptic to try to break the plan for 30 minutes. No grandstanding, just assume this fails. How? They propose 2 failure modes and 1 mitigation each. You log them. Now your plan includes the tripwires your enemies would exploit. In politics and business, friendly fire drills prevent hostile fire disasters. Keep slack in the system on purpose. Rigid systems shatter under fortune's shove. Reserve 10 to 15% capacity as a buffer you defend like budget. You use it for unplanned work, fast responses, and experimental bets. When a shock arrives, you reallocate slack instead of raiding the core. If you run at 100% for efficiency, you've traded resilience for optics. Train tempo, not just tasks. In a pinch, speed of cycle beats size of move. Teach teams to ship thin slices end to end. Design, build, test, learn, in days, not quarters. Speed isn't recklessness, it's reduced batch size plus clear guardrails. Write guardrails as ranges rather than bands. We can vary price within plus or minus 5% without approval. We can change copy and images on this page without review if conversion stays within target. Band ranges allow movement without bureaucracy. Make information portable. When fortune knocks out a tool or a person, the work should survive. That means standard naming, versioned documents, shared dashboards, single sources of truth. It means recording decisions with the rationale so newcomers can continue without rediscovering the why. Portability is a preparation tax you pay so you don't pay panic interest later. Run drills. Not theatrical, real. Once a month. Simulate a vendor outage. Switch to the standby for 24 hours. Once a quarter, restore from backups onto fresh hardware. Twice a year. Tabletop a PR crisis with 3 roles: facts, message, approvals, and a 60-minute clock. Teams that sweat in practice bleed less in battle. Engineer optionality into contracts. Add termination for convenience clauses, audit rights, and service credits for SLA misses. Add most favored nation price language when your volume climbs. Add data export guarantees. The day fortune sours a relationship, your paper is either a lifeline or a leash. Diversify signal sources. Don't fly on vanity metrics and vibes. Pair quantitative dashboards with qualitative frontline reports. A monthly rotation where leaders take a shift on support calls or site walkthroughs keeps reality from getting filtered through PowerPoint. Fortune often whispers before it shouts. You want ears pressed to the quiet places. Build a habit of pre-commitment on boring basics that fortune loves to attack. Security patches, rotating credentials, renewing domains, checking certificate expirations, renewing key partnerships before the last minute. A calendar with these dates is not administrative trivia. It's a shield wall that doesn't need a speech. When the flood comes, your first hour is choreography. Contain, communicate, correct. Contain, identify blast radius, cut propagation, protect the unaffected. Communicate, one channel, one spokesperson, one update rhythm. Say what you know, what you don't, what you're doing next, and when you'll update again. Correct, deploy the smallest fix that stops the bleeding before you chase root cause. Fortune punishes leaders who try to be profound before they are effective. Use pivot kits, pre-built bundles for common shocks. Revenue dip kit, expense ladder, discount levers, fast offer templates, partnership list. Supply kit, alternative vendors with pre-vetted terms, reduced SKU plan, customer messaging. Talent kit, contractor bench, internal cross-training map, onboarding sprints. You don't invent under stress, you swap in the kit and go. Keep a ledger of lessons that pays rent. After each shock or experiment, you capture one sentence in a living doc. What you misread, what you'd do earlier, what signal mattered most. Tie each lesson to a change in a checklist, a template, a rule. Lessons that don't alter an artifact evaporate. Preparation that changes artifacts accumulates. Calibrate courage with math. Courage is not blind gambling, it's calculated exposure. Write exposure as a fraction of survival. We can risk up to 8% of cash on acquisition experiments this quarter because burn plus reserves equals 9 months. You're telling fortune, I'll meet you at the casino, but only with chips I can lose and rules I chose. Teach everyone to escalate early. Fortune loves silence. Make it safe and routine to say, I'm worried. Reward the messenger who surfaces a weak signal that saves you later. Publish escalation stories where early warnings changed outcomes. Culture is the memory of what got people praised or punished. Choose your memories intentionally. When you must bet big, compress the uncertainty you can control and absorb the rest. You compress by pre-selling, pre-signing, pre-testing, and pre-briefing. You absorb by setting aside reserves and setting public expectations as ranges rather than points. Fortune hates leaders who promise a date and a dollar and hit neither. Promise a band and hit inside it. Keep your own energy in reserve. Decision fatigue is Fortune's inside agent. Batch similar calls, set no decision windows, and delegate with clear bounds. The leader who tries to personally wrestle every variable eventually hands Fortune the steering wheel through exhaustion. Systems, not heroics, are the antidote. End each week with 2 lists, the one decisive move you made that reduced chaos, and the one loop you tightened that increased learning speed. Those are the twin rails of Machiavellian execution. Strike once, then stabilize. Meet luck with preparation that learns faster than events can overwhelm.